Catus Maximus here once again, this time with a review of the Craftsman 1/4 inch universal swivel sockets. These sockets, the last time I went in the series, they still had these on the shelf, and they were even the American made ones because they don't sell very many of them. It was a little difficult for me to dig up the whole set. I had to go to a few stores I remember when buying these, and they ended up having more metric than Imperial when I built this set. And what we have here is an 8-piece Imperial and a 9-piece metric. I believe there's one more metric socket that I never dug up. So these Craftsman universal sockets end up working fairly well. Let's take a closer look at them. This, like any other universal joint, they're just a universal joint where one end of the joint actually has a socket already attached to it, so it makes it more compact. Here we go. Let's take a close look at this socket. You can see that the Craftsmans are interesting. They're not particularly fluted, but they kind of do some weird thing where they round them, so it's like semi-fluting. Another thing is that they're not through broached, which means that the fluting of the socket only goes down so far. They didn't have a blind broach, or what is known as a blind broach, so there's this little undercut under the flutes, or where the hex is, and every once in a while I've had them get a little stuck on a fastener. It's because it's using a little bit older and more traditional of a manufacturing process. Other than that, actually, these, for the little sockets, they've been pretty good. They have pretty good pins. They are press-fit pins. And I do like the black universal section. So, of course, these things are great when you're in tight spaces, because universal joints can end up going around a 60-degree bend, like this, pretty easily. But due to the knuckle, they kind of bump around and wobble around. If you're pressing hard or you get a little too far over, then they end up jamming up. What I kind of find interesting about the Craftsman is initially these are tapered here, and on many universals, say this little proto, they're real straight-walled. Allows them to get over further, but what I realized upon using this is this taper, and on this size, Craftsman's attempt to prevent them from getting so far over where they do jam up. So even if you get them right next to each other, that smooth taper actually prevents them from totally locking up. If we do that with the more traditional one, as soon as we get over and jammed in there, the whole thing's just locked up. And that was actually what made me kind of happy about these, is the way these, even all the way over, will still not jam and turn, and that actually means a lot. Now, if we were to I had another comment about other swivel sockets of why you would want these kind of sockets, whether they're impact or traditional, in a single socket, and that's because of size. If you were using a universal joint with a regular 10mm socket, as you can see, it's way larger, huge compared to this. If we were to use a impact universal socket, say this little 10mm SK, you can see that that little SK is still a lot bigger. Another big deal is the diameter of the socket. This socket, the little impact sockets, because of the knuckle, end up having to be quite a bit larger, so they don't fit in as tight as spaces. And of course, the steepest angle this goes over is 30 degrees. And then the third reason why you wouldn't buy an impact universal and then put an impact socket on it is that is huge. This is nearly the size of a deep well. Of course, it works, and you would love to have I would recommend having these. But as compared to this, obviously this is going to fit in a space half the size, as well as being much smaller diameter. So those are kind of some of the advantages and pitfalls of universal sockets, as well as just going over these particular Craftsmans, which actually have a pretty intelligent design. Once again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.